Hi, everyone. We're back with Breslov Coaching and Healing with Moshe, Chaya, Rivka. And the last few times I asked you for topics or questions, suggestions about what you would like to see us talk about. We're talking about topics in psychospirituality through the lens of Rebbe Nachman's teachings. And we got a couple of emails and with very good suggestions. If you have a topic or a question, you can always put it in the comments below, and we'll be happy to take a look at them. So this topic is something that comes up a lot, the one we decided to answer today. And it's a question in the form of, did Rebbe Nachman really say that you shouldn't drink? So I will answer that. I will begin by answering that. The Rebbe said that you shouldn't get intoxicated. He didn't say you shouldn't drink. He said you shouldn't get intoxicated. And there are at least 3 lessons in Likutey and Moharan where the Rebbe speaks about this. And I am going to list them in the description below so you can take a look at them for yourselves. And the Rebbe didn't have an issue with people making kiddush or purim or having a chaim if it was necessary to celebrate a simcha. What he had an issue with was people getting together and supposedly getting together as comrades to talk Torah and instead getting drunk. He had a real issue with that. He had a real issue with intoxication in general because it takes us away from clarity in a relationship with Hashem and with other people and with ourselves. Now, Moshe has a lot of experience in fields of addiction and mental health, and I'm going to let him talk about some of this topic today, and we may do another video on this because there's a lot related to this topic that he can talk about or we can talk about. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chaya. Hello, everybody. Yes, I worked with people for 40 years that were struggling with alcohol and drug problems, as well as mental health problems, including anxiety and depression and other emotional behavioral disturbances. So, what I've learned over that course of time, quite frequently, that it's not enough for a person to get experience in treatment that has to do with certain concepts that don't really help a person get in touch with their inner.
What do you mean?
What I mean is that, there's another dimension to what treatment is that treats the whole person, and that's helping the person understand that psychotherapy and 12-step programs are very helpful, but they don't really help the whole person. So we really want to try to help the whole person because addiction and mental illness are spiritual illnesses. So we want to be able to help them get in touch with their feelings and their neshama and be able to help them recover. So
okay, so what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is that there's a spiritual component to a mental illness.
Yes, there's a spiritual component to mental illness.
Okay,
exactly.
And then the neshama, the soul, has to be addressed. Otherwise, it's not a complete healing. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, because we have to be able to get in touch with what we're experiencing in our soul, and that could be various feelings that we have, various experiences that we have, and we usually do that through hisbodedus.
Okay, so you're saying that the way to deal with these issues is through hisbodedus, and it's interesting that you say that because in Likutey Moharan 31, Rebbe Nachman speaks about the power of speech to affect the soul, to shape the soul, to form the soul. And without speech, a person can't self-actualize. We have to be able to speak. And in hisbodedus, what we do is we speak to Hashem about whatever is on our mind and in our hearts, and we really speak from the heart.
Right.
And so the heart, the mind, all of this are sort of expressions of the neshama.
Speech is connected to the soul, and that's part of the healing process when you do hisbodedus.
Okay.
Yeah. And this addiction itself is a physical, mental, and spiritual condition. And what we try to do is help people understand when I work with them to understand that, there's an element called denial, which is a way that the Yetzer Hara, it's really the Yetzer Hara, the way the Yetzer Hara tricks you into thinking that, hey, I don't really have a problem with alcohol or drugs or anything else. Other people have this problem, not me, So this is one of the ways that we have to understand that when we do this, we can then talk to Hashem about what's going on in our thinking and our feeling, that's helping our denial continue where we don't think we have a problem. Like we may say to ourselves that, one form of denial is like, let's say, minimization. A person might minimize the use. They might say just to individuals that, I only use one, I'll take one drink, one line, one toke. It's really nothing, but we don't really know how often that happens. We don't know if the person is really being truthful with themselves. So, and part of this process to help a person come to that inner truth, that inner understanding of what they need to do to not only stop, but stay stopped from using substances and alcohol.
Okay, so I'm just going to reiterate what you say so I can be clear. So denial can take many forms, and one of those forms is minimization.
Correct.
Are there other forms of denial?
There are other forms. There's at least 50 forms, maybe more. But another few examples would be rationalization, projection, generalization, all these different ways that the Yetzer Hara tries to make us make right in our mind that it's okay to use substances. Because don't forget, denial is a type of condition when we're experiencing that it's interested only in protecting itself and perpetuating the use of drinking. So, and drugging. So the thing is, like, that's what we have to be aware of, that if we're thinking that we want to use substances and want to use alcohol, that means that denial is rearing its head again, and we have to do more hisbodedus.
So you mean abuse, not just use alcohol.
Both abuse and using alcohol, as well as people who may be needing to use alcohol or drugs because they feel they need to have it every day, which takes us into the realm of addiction. But I could talk about that in another video, how it progresses from abuse to addiction.
So it's interesting what you're saying about denial, because you said that it's the Yetzer Hara. So this denial is a form that the Yetzer Hara takes.
That's correct.
And then there are many forms of denial. And it's interesting because the Rebbe describes the Yetzer Hara as a trickster. And the trickster, or the joker, is running just ahead of you with closed fists. And you're running after him to get him to open his hands and give you what he's got inside. He's got something really you want. You can't stop wanting it. And so you run and you chase after him. And then the Rebbe says you catch up with him. And he opens his fists and they're empty. There's nothing inside. And that really, in my experience, I work with obviously much fewer people who have addiction problems or substance abuse problems, but I do have them.
What about women?
My coaching, okay, so I'll tell you in a minute, but so in my experience that Yetzer Hara is something that everybody can be led by and fooled by. And so about women, so with women, I don't think, in the Jewish world, there's this myth that there's no problems with alcoholism, Jews don't do drugs. I think today people are realizing that in these times, this is just not true anymore. It's unfortunately not true. There's a lot of abuse. Because why? Because we are in the era of Mashiach, and times are very, very hard. Just look around. The world's gone crazy, and people are under tremendous personal pressure, and we're under national pressure. And I think people are looking for escapes and to help them with all kinds of feelings. And with women, it's tricky because women are more covert. Women, they hide their drinking. They hide their, let's say, prescription pill use or whatever else it is. They hide it. Men go out and they'll drink with their friends, their buddies, and they'll find reasons for it. Women will disguise their drinking. And so for women are often in denial. The only way out of this is, and women won't even admit this even in counseling very often. They'll go to therapists for years and never admit that they're drinking every day, you know. And I think that also the way out of this is Hisbodedus. And, you know, when we were talking earlier about this, you mentioned the feelings, and you spoke about why people use or abuse substances.
The reason why people use substances is because there's 3 reasons. And there may be more, but 3 that I'm very much aware of clinically in my experience is that they want to change a feeling, they want to forget a feeling, or they want to control a feeling. For instance, they want to change a feeling, they're not feeling so happy and they feel sad, so they want to get happy. Okay. And then, you know, that's
very often why people drink.
Often why people drink, right? Then another reason is they had trauma, they have pain in their life from childhood, wherever it may be. And so they want to forget it. They want to drink so much and use drugs so much to forget those feelings because they're not able to deal with them. And then there are people that want to control feelings. For instance, they have a lot of anger, and the only way they can keep their anger from going down the scale to fury and to rage is to use substances to medicate themselves. But when they do this, you know, this is a kind of a counterfeit form of being able to take care of emotions, because after it's all done and over, the emotions are still there. They don't go away.
It's not therapy. Drinking and drugs aren't therapy.
Not therapy, you know. Right. It may be to the person that it's therapy, but it's not really therapy, you know. So that's why the Rebbe Nachman says that in order to really make these advances, we have to take a look. We have to do a Hisbodedus on what we're experiencing, what we're going through, and say, you know, Hashem, help me through this. I'm feeling, and take ownership of the feeling. I'm feeling ashamed. I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling angry. Take ownership of it. Speak about it in Hisbodedus for as long as you can. And Rebbe says that it will always come back an answer for you. And Rebbe Nachman says it also. There'll always be an answer that Hashem will send you, and you will get an answer to your Hisbodedus. It's the oldest form of prayer. Hisbodedus is what what everyone did before there was chakras, mincha, and marav, right? Everybody went to the field and they did Hisbodedus. So it's a very powerful form of prayer that can be very helpful.
So I think what you're saying, like, if I understand correctly, is that Hisbodedus or Hisbodedus, this speech with Hashem, this talking with Hashem, is the first step to healing and sort of the answer to healing from addiction or substance use. And also, it's, you know, for women, it really, for men too, for men need to open up more. For women who are able to open up, but maybe not facing that there's a problem. And unfortunately, there are women with these problems, you know, they need to talk to someone, and it may be too shameful an experience, too embarrassing, humiliating to actually talk to someone about it. But with Hashem, it's just you and Hashem. So you can open up and you can say to Hashem, I've got a problem. Or you could talk to Hashem and say, Hashem, I don't even know how to talk to you. I have so much I need to deal with and I can't get it out. And could you please help me open up? And Hashem is always there for you to sort of help you open up. And when you talk about all these feelings, you said to change a feeling, forget a feeling, and the third one, control or manage, maybe control
yeah,
feeling.
Sure, absolutely.
So I think men and women do this very differently. I don't know. What would be the differences? What would a man doing this look like in terms of dealing with drugs and alcohol, and a woman? What do you think the differences would be?
I think a woman would generally be silent. You know, they would be silent. They wouldn't speak about it. You know, whereas a man would speak about it and boast about it. And you know, and that's the way that they would express it, I believe. You know, that
but
way.
when I'm talking about is the feelings, like does a woman also have these three sort of management tactics to change and forget and control?
Yes, they
Same
do.
thing.
It's the same thing, you know, and you know, when we do that, you know, when we have feelings and we don't deal with them, they become stuck, you know, become what we call suppressed. And then when we don't deal with them for many, many years, they can become locked up inside of us. And it takes that Hisbodedus working it through with Hashem to release that slowly over time so that there can be a healing and the person can then make advances toward recovering from whatever they're going through, whether it's, using substances or mental health.
As someone who's coached and mentored a lot of women, I can say that really without Hippolyte, then the coaching also is missing something. You've got to do that work, and that's what makes a difference. And you can begin if you're not used to making Hippolyte. It's just Rebbe Nachman says at the simplest level, it's talking to Hashem as if he was your very best friend. And why? Because he is your very best friend. He created you. He knows your thoughts. He knows your feelings. He knows who you are, where you've been, what you've done, what you want to do. And he understands you. And even though he's seen you at your worst, he loves you. You are so precious to Hashem. He's so crazy about you. And Rebbe Nachman tells us that Hashem looks away from the bad that we've done. He only looks at the good that we've done. And he tries to not look at anything that's going to be incriminating or negative about you. He's just seeing your good points. And when you do his bonus and you get out that negative stuff, you confess it, you get rid of it, you are then able to move on and mirror Hashem and only see your good points. And that's so important, especially I think with drugs and alcohol. I think they're used to pump people up, also make them feel better about themselves. Is that correct?
Sure, that's correct.
And for women, for women to relieve that social anxiety, or to relieve anxiety about feeling less than, and Hippolyte will take that away for you. And so you start by, you can do it early in the morning, you can do it late at night, to be in a private place, preferably. You can do it outdoors. You certainly can do it at home. If you're home, you can do it under the covers. You can do it in a private room, and just start talking to Hashem. And Rebbe recommends an hour a day, which certainly that will change your life dramatically. But he also says a little bit is so good. So, an hour seems daunting to you. This is new to you, or it's something that you feel you have to work up to. Okay, so start with 20 minutes. If 20 minutes doesn't work, start with 10 minutes. If 10 minutes doesn't work, start with 5. And for those 5 minutes, let nothing distract you. Put your phone, garbage, or turn it off, get rid of it, and don't let anything else distract you. And talk to Hashem from the heart about really whatever's on your mind and your heart. And Hashem can help you, and he's going to help you with the spiritual needs you have. He's going to help you with your material needs as well.
And you could even take some additional action steps with this bonus to help strengthen, your resolve. And one is to, one of the things, there's usually 3 things, and that's to avoid people, places, and things that can be part of reawakening that desire and towards using substances or becoming, in a situation.
Elaborate?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like for instance, people like peers that you've used with, that you party with, that you go out with, those peers are not exactly connected in the way you want to connect to Hashem. So when you see other people using, you tend to miss it. You tend to say, I want to be doing that too. I want to be part of that. There's like you feel that you want to include yourself. So being around peers can be a very strong, like a strong thing that moves you away from what your goal is. And then places, like going to certain places that you've once used, or like going to bars, or going around people and or places where you've met to meet people to buy drugs or to solicit drugs or whatever, and alcohol, that's another thing. And then lastly, things that remind you of it. Like if you see basically items that you've used to use the drugs with. So your special drinking glass, your special shot glass, your tall shot glass, So
what you're saying is in Hippolyte to talk about this and it sounds like you're saying you need to disconnect from
Disconnect from it. You got to do the gestaltis or action steps. We call them action steps to move yourself away from it. We have to do our part too, also, and Hashem will also help us when we do the hisbodedus as well. Yeah.
Okay, so that's something you can also keep in mind and go to do is to really talk about recognizing and discussing the details of your issue. So like if you are a woman and you're drinking covertly and you're drinking the same drink out of a glass and you like the sound of the ice tinkling in the glass and it's your trigger, or it's your or you know, or you put your alcohol in a certain flask or whatever, or I don't know, whatever these things are, this can be also a subject for devoted and Hashem help me disconnect for it. And if you're a man, you said earlier men boast. Like men say, wow, I got to we were really far brain last night. I had like 10 shots. Like I've heard men say dumb things like that. Sorry to me it's dumb, but okay. I shouldn't say that. But boasting about getting drunk is something to really examine. Is that really what you're proud of? And no, of course it's not. You're proud that you're a holy Jew. You're proud that you do love your friends. That's a good thing, and you're proud that you're connected to Hashem. That's the things we're really proud of. And you mentioned before counterfeit feelings, and I would say that that other stuff is a counterfeit feeling. You're fooling yourself a little bit. So all right, so we covered today, I think we spoke about that addiction is a spiritual, mental, and physical illness. It's an illness of self-deception. It's an illness of denial. You spoke quite a bit about denial. And you spoke about the importance of making hibodedut as a first step or as an adjunct step. I mean, Rebbe Nachman actually says you should begin with prayer. That's what he says. So it is a good first step in order to really speak about these problems. And then you spoke about feelings and why people drink or do drugs to medicate their feelings. And you described that to us. And you spoke about the forms of denial we take. And spoke about the difference between women and men. I don't know. We had so many things to speak about, but maybe we'll do it in another video.
Yes.
Because we kind of went off on a tangent today because the conversation was developing in that area, which is fine. We have a lot to talk about this topic, and I don't know if we'll do it next time or we'll do another topic next time because we have a list. But remember, Hashem really loves you, and He wants you to be living your best life, and He wants to hear from you. He wants you to talk to Him, and once you get in the habit of talking to Hashem every day, you can't even imagine a day without it.
You'll be able to work on all your problems.
Yeah,
with Hashem,
and you may need to talk to a person too,
maybe.
Okay, because we only have so much wisdom that we can reflect back to ourselves. But hibodedut has to be a part of that healing and recovery process. All right. So okay, we'll say goodbye till next week. It's the beginning of the 9 days. Tonight, if I get this video posted in time, the 1st of Rosh Chodesh Av. So it's a time where we have to be careful. It's a time where wine is prohibited and grape juice is prohibited, except for Shvat. And it's a time where really we're supposed to be immersed in feeling how we are separated from Hashem, and we should be yearning for that connection. And we have to yearn for that connection with a clear mind and a clear heart. And I wish you all a very good week, and God willing, we'll make another video next week.
Yes, thank you all for watching, and I hope this is helpful to you.
Thanks.
Thank you.